Hello, everyone. So we are right now in the middle of storm season. There are storms going on all over the place, and with that comes a lot of anxiety, both before the storms and after the storms, in adults and children. Now, specifically with children, it can be hard talking about these storms and helping them process their emotions. So in this video, we are going to be talking through that as parents, what you can do for yourself and for your children. My name is Caroline Henry. I'm with First Things First, and I'm here with our President and CEO, Julie Baumgardner.
Hello.
How have you been affected by all these storms? Have you seen friends, families struggling with this?
You know, we did not actually see storm damage. It woke me up in the middle of the night, this last storm that we had, and I actually came out to my husband and I said, "Are we okay?" Because he was the designated storm weather watcher for the evening. But yes, so many people affected. Our daughter lives in Arkansas, and they have seen lots of storms. And then locally, we've had a lot of friends and acquaintances who have either had storm damage or just lost their home entirely. And it's been hard to watch because it's just been devastating.
It really has. I feel like, I don't know if I'm just more aware of it this year or what, but it seems like it's just one storm after another.
Yeah.
And
It feels volatile. It definitely feels volatile.
yeah, and on top of all this COVID-19 crazy.
Right. Yeah. I think it kind of keeps us on edge
Oh.
just because there's the COVID thing where we've already got tension and stress going on. And then they're telling us we need to be weather aware. And when I am watching the national news, it just seems like we're weather aware everywhere.
Right. It's overwhelming, really.
It is. Yeah.
So narrowing in on that, for parents with kids, especially younger kids, what are some ways that they might be able to recognize some anxiety or fear or stress from their children about these storms?
I think probably a couple of things. One would be if you are spending a lot of time watching the Weather Channel or honed in on the weather for your area and your kids are sitting there, they're going to pick up on that and they may be anxious and they may never tell you. They're just feeling anxiety and you might see that in their behavior. They might become more irritable. They might be withdrawn. They might be very clingy to you. Those would be ways that you might be aware that they're experiencing some stress about that and it's an opportunity to have a conversation. If you've actually lived through a storm, you could easily see that your children, they don't want to go to bed by themselves. They don't want to leave your side. And if they're young, they may not have the words to say, I'm scared or I'm afraid of this happening again tonight. And even older folks, teenagers, could be very traumatized by experiencing this crazy weather. I think for us as parents, we just have to be very aware. This is one, it's not normal. And when your child is behaving in a way that isn't typically them, different from their personality, that's when you need to pay attention.
Yeah. So you mentioned kids maybe not wanting to sleep in their bed at night and things like that. I know I don't have any kids right now, but I can imagine as a parent, if my child was wanting to sleep in my bed or, night after night have these disruptions in their regular routine, I would fear forming bad habits and maybe making a ritual out of something that we just don't want long term. So what would you say to parents that are nervous maybe to form a bad habit while still wanting to give their child what they need?
Yeah. So I think that's the key right there, is honing in on what do my children need right now from me. And I think about, and this is true for adults also, we actually thrive on routines, rituals, consistency, and structure.
Mm-hmm.
When it feels like all those things are thrown out the window, it feels very out of control, no matter how old you are. So when bad weather is predicted, or you've just experienced that, the sooner that you can figure out a way to create a plan, to put some routines and rituals and some structure into place, the better. It could be that you sit the family down and you say, we are weather aware today. And here's what that means. That means that we all know our safe space is here. And one of us, as your parent, we will be watching the weather. And so we're gonna go to bed. The rest of us are gonna go to bed at our normal times. If we need to get up and we need to go to our safe space, here's how that's gonna look. So that they, especially the children, feel like, oh, okay, we've got a plan. My parents are good. It is what it is. We've got a plan, and we're going to roll with that plan. That gives some semblance of safety and security, which is what we all need. And so it may be that they sleep next to you for a few nights because that's what they need for comfort. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you've started a bad habit. It just means this is hard. We need to talk about it. We need to create plans. We need to help them feel safe and secure. You could even ask what would help you feel safe.
That's a good
Sometimes it's falling asleep, with mom or dad laying in bed with me, or reading a story, creating a bedtime ritual. All those things contribute to decreasing anxiety and increasing feeling safe and secure.
Yeah. And going back to the routines and the rituals, it sounds like setting clear expectations for yourself and your child might play into that too. Being very open about the plan and what you are trying to do to protect them and what you expect from them too.
Yeah. It's interesting how much children take in and are actually able to comprehend. I can remember when our daughter was 4 years old and she got bitten by a dog in the face. Oh. And I had to take her to the emergency room, and she needed stitches, which was also going to require a shot. And the physician said to me, I want you to distract her while I give her the shot. And I said, absolutely not. I'm going to tell her exactly what's getting ready to happen and that I'm right here with you. And it's very important that you stay still, and it might hurt a little bit. And he looked at me and he said, I don't think that's going to work. And I said, well, okay, but we're absolutely going to try that first. Mm-hmm. And I calmly told her exactly what the plan was. And I said, so here we go. This is what's going to happen. She laid perfectly still and did exactly what I asked her to do. Yeah. And the physician was floored. He said, I would have never believed it. And I think that that's what we as parents have to remember. None of us do well with surprises. And so even if they don't get all of it, I don't think she caught everything, but I kept it very simple and concrete and short. Yeah. And I think that when children kind of hear that from us, they do better. And so when we can talk about, here is how we are going to handle this as a family. One, there's confidence that you as their parent have thought through this and you're not surprised. And two, as much as they can comprehend, and certainly we're talking about being age appropriate. So what you do with a 4-year-old, and if you have a 12-year-old, obviously they can take in different amounts of information. So you might give a bit more to the 12-year-old, but keeping it simple, even for older people, when you are experiencing trauma, anticipating trauma, have experienced trauma, less is more. Yeah. So keep it simple.
That's very true. And it's so easy to overwhelm ourselves with
Yeah,
this
yeah.
information and the fear. But I mean, we can't give what we don't have. I hear you
Right.
say that all the time.
Yeah, so let's talk about that
Yeah.
because I think that self-care also plays into this when you're trying to help children walk through trauma,
Mhm.
having experienced a storm. They are going to need more from you. And if you aren't taking care of yourself, maybe you need to process what happened with someone. You need to make sure you're getting rest, and you might make sure that you're writing things down, because when you try and keep all the things in your head that you need to remember about repairs and people that need to be called, things that need to happen, what's happening with your belongings, all that, it's very overwhelming. So if you can get it out of your head and on paper, that's also developing a plan for you, but it's good self-care because it gives you more bandwidth to pay attention to the needs of your children when it just feels like they're extra needy. When
Yeah.
you don't have that bandwidth, it's easy to become very short and irritable with them.
Yeah, that's a good point. And even, I mean, kids love to play. I mean, they, even when they're overwhelmed and fearful, they still want to do something fun.
Yeah.
And I think as a parent, it might be easy to put that to the side and be like, there are more important things we need to do right now.
Yes, such a great point. Play actually helps in the healing process. It's a good time out for the adults as well as the kids to do something, whether it's playing a board game or playing tag in the yard, doing something that's fun. I mean, just getting some bubbles and blowing bubbles can create some joy in the midst of what feels very chaotic and not very joyful.
Yeah. So let's say as a parent, you're seeing these signs in your child that are a little concerning, whether they are more anxious than usual, or they're wanting to sleep in your bed every night, or things like that, or you're seeing things that are kind of alarming in yourself. At what point should you be concerned and maybe seek outside help?
Well, it would be very normal to feel traumatized after experiencing a storm.
Mm.
So I would start there, that I wouldn't expect you to say, oh, I'm on the other side of that and everything's great. You would probably, it would be normal to, when they say that we need to be weather aware again, that all of a sudden you would feel maybe your heart rate increase and you would feel anxiety increase. And but over time, that would subside as things settle down. You make repairs, you get into a rental situation, or things just, your power comes back on, you're going to calm down and get back to some sense of normalcy. If after several weeks things don't seem to be calming down, that's when I would 100% ask for help sooner rather than later. I mean, there's nothing wrong with saying, I just want to make sure we're all okay, and asking for some help and guidance. And a lot of times, even if the parent seeks that help from a counselor and just says, here's what's happened to us, and here's how we're currently handling it, for the counselor to say, it sounds like what you're doing is absolutely on the right track, more of that. Or perhaps you might want to try a few things differently with your child to see if that helps. Just giving you some guidance that can help decrease your own anxiety, that maybe you're not doing something as a parent that you need to be doing, or that what's happening here, it's normal. It's unfolding, and it's just going to take some time to get things back to normal. But I just go back to what I said about the routines, rituals, consistency, and structure. The more you can work on that, the more safe and secure your children will feel. And the reality of all of this is, you as a parent, you can't predict or prevent future storms. But when you are willing to have conversations with your children about what happened, I've lived a lot of years. I've never actually been in the path of a tornado. So the likelihood of that happening actually again to us is really unlikely. It's possible, but it's unlikely.
Yeah.
That's comforting. Being willing to have those kinds of conversations and don't give answers that you really don't have the answers to. Say, I don't know that, but here's what I do know. I do know that you have parents that care about you immensely, and we are going to continue to do everything in our power to keep you safe and provide ways for you to thrive in life.
Yeah. Well, Julie, this has been awesome. I hope it's been helpful for all the parents watching to help you process everything with these storms and help your children process too. I know, Julie, you mentioned earlier maybe journaling as a way to help process this. And we actually have a couple of articles on our website specifically for journaling for kids and journaling for adults. So I'll link those in the description of this video. So definitely go check those out. It's a great way for self-care and for processing through these emotions.
Yeah, fantastic. So glad you mentioned that. Yes.
So thank you again, Julie. This has been great. We'll see you again soon.
Sounds good.